you know I'm a selfie guy, right? Susie always made fun of me. My wife always made fun of me for being a selfie person. Now she's into it. A lot of selfies with the kids. February 1st, 2016, this selfie. You ready to see it? That's me on the left. That's the current coach of the Colorado Buffaloes in there. And look at the Marcus. Look at who's that guy with the flow on the right. Let's bring him in right now to ask that question. Who's the guy with the flow on the right, Luke Kuechly? Who's that guy?
I'll tell you what. So that was cool. That year, obviously, went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Everybody on the team was growing a beard, facial hair.
Yeah.
Greg Olsen, huge beard. Ryan Khalil, huge beard.
Yeah.
One of our special teams linebackers, Ben Jacobs, huge beard. Derek Anderson, huge beard. Luke Kuechly couldn't grow a beard.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Couldn't grow one. It was stubble and patchy and miserable looking. So my contribution was I'm going to grow my hair as long as I could. So I don't remember when I cut it, but I didn't touch it from probably the middle of June through Super Bowl.
Really?
So that was my contribution.
Wow. So there was actual story behind the flow.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad I don't have a problem growing a beard because growing the hair out, that's my problem. I can't do that.
You know what? To each his own.
But I remember that night. That was media night, Super Bowl 50 media night. You were there, and DeMarcus Ware was there, and Dion and I were hosting it on NFL Network, and you just popped by, and I'm like, let's take a selfie, and
boom.
Yeah, no.
That was you see that night every year. You know, you grow up watching the Super Bowl, and you see that night, and you're like, maybe one day, I'll have that opportunity. So for us to be there at that arena, I think it was at the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah.
Arena, right?
That's right.
And
it was. Yeah,
we sat in those booths and answered questions, and it was a great experience.
Man, and now look at us here live on the Rich Eisen Show, and I don't know. I just thought it would be a neat way for us to begin our conversation. I'm back here on the Rich Eisen Show radio network, sitting at the Rich Eisen Show desk furnished by Grainger with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger has the right product for you. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Luke Kuechly, Pro Football Hall of Fame finalist and one of the best in the Carolina Panthers history, joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. And I mean, so many different ways to start. I last saw you in Germany, in Munich, when the Panthers season was just trying somehow, some way to redeem Bryce Young, who had just gotten his starting role back because of a car accident suffered by Andy Dalton. And that kid he balled out the rest of the year, Luke. I mean, he is in fact redeemed, right? Don't you think?
I mean, since he's gotten back, it's like he's been a different player. And you know, that was a difficult decision for Dave Canales, his first year in Carolina. Do I pull this first overall pick, who we traded all these picks for, and start a veteran quarterback in Andy Dalton? And, you know, the season started off poorly. Bryce had a couple tough games. We were struggling. They made the move. Andy goes in week one, starting, goes and lights it up against Las Vegas. And everyone's like, boom, Andy's our guy. And then Andy gets hurt. Bryce comes back in. That first game against Denver, we struggle a little bit. And then at the end of the game, he takes us on a drive. We go down the field. Then we beat the Saints, and then we go beat the Giants. And then we take the Eagles and the Chiefs to the edge. And it's like he came back. And whoever took that picture is exactly what Bryce was when he came back. Smiling, having fun. I felt like he was the Bryce of Alabama. And I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, he got hit a lot his first year. His rookie year, got sacked 62 times. Our offensive line was a revolving door. This year, Dan Morgan goes out and signs a bunch of big guys up front, solidify the offensive line. I think it took him when he sat back and watched, I think he said, wow, like, our offensive line's really good. He got to watch Andy do it. And then when he came back, it just all kind of started flowing again. So I give Bryce a ton of credit. Just the mental and the physical toughness that he's shown since he's been here, both getting hit a ton last year and then dealing with what he went through this year. I give him a lot of credit for how he rebounded the second half of the year.
Yeah, and Dave Canales, in our broadcast meeting before that Giants-Carolina game in Munich, Luke, told us that he knew that they would get in the right direction, or they were going in the right direction, when the players' personalities would show up on the field. So for you to point out, like, the photograph of Bryce, you know, giving the first down line signal as that's the guy who he is, Canales was right, with Liggett showing his personality out there on the field, and you see what Bryce Young was doing. Thielen coming back was obviously crucial because he's still got a ton of game left. I got to tell you, I didn't see Bryce Young being redeemed by the end of the year unquestionably on the dance card. Didn't see it.
I didn't either. I mean, where he started the year to where he is now has been. I give him a lot of credit. I give Dave Canales a lot of credit. I give Andy Dalton a ton of credit for the situation that took him off the field and still being a great teammate. I think a lot of it comes from Canales and his attitude and his positivity and the type of person he is. So.
Well, speaking of dance cards, Luke, you calling the games locally on the radio, on the Panthers radio network. Week 2, you saw the Chargers. Week 7, Washington. Week 8, Denver. Week 12, Kansas City. And week 14, Philadelphia. Weeks 13 and 17, Tampa. They all have one thing in common. They have made the playoffs. So which is the best team, do you think, that you personally witnessed, Luke?
Oh, I think it'd be hard to. I wasn't at the Eagles game. I didn't get to do that one. I had something else going on.
Okay.
I think the Chiefs to me, I mean, you can tell a lot by a team and how they warm up prior to the game. Are they loose? Are they confident? Are they having fun? The energy that you can feel from the Chiefs is very much the players. The players are the team. They have confidence in who they are. They follow number 95. They follow Travis Kelce. They follow Mahomes, and they are loose and they are confident, and they just feel like a team that's been to the Super Bowl and won 2 in a row. That's just what they feel like to me. And they don't always win pretty this year, but they were pretty daggone good. And I think that was the best team that we played this year.
No doubt. But the Panthers gave them all they could handle in that game. If I'm not mistaken, that's the one where Mahomes was running down the sideline and took care of business towards the end of it. And that result was kind of the pinnacle of the narrative all year long, that the Chiefs are winning with smoke and mirrors, pulling it out of various orifice towards the end of the game and being a tad more lucky than good. So I'm wondering where you stand on that subject matter, even though we have seen the Chiefs kind of turn it around a little bit more in the last month of the year.
I think good teams just know how to win games, and that's what the Chiefs are. And I think some of these teams, the Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl the last 2 years, have been in the playoffs the past couple of years. I sometimes think, do they get bored playing in the regular season? Do they get bored traveling on the road and playing a 1:00 game in the middle of the season in October when they know we're going to win our division, we're going to have a couple home games, and then the ultimate goal is to get to the Super Bowl? So I think, like, number one, good teams know how to win games. They have the best quarterback out there that can take them down the field. Kelce, the narrative on him all year is, oh, he's not doing anything. And then when they need him, he shows up. Chris Jones is a monster. That Spagnuolo defense is really good, but they're the Kansas City Chiefs. They've won the Super Bowl the last 2 years. I think when it becomes go time, they're ready to go. And I think a lot of people are starting to really wonder, will 24 days or whatever it is have an effect on them from when Mahomes and Kelce and all those guys that played last to this first playoff game?
Is that a thing? Getting bored in the regular season, playing just 1:00 games? You're not on Sunday night football or Thursday night football. Well, in the case of the Chiefs, they've literally won a game on every day of the week this year except Tuesday.
Isn't that wild?
It is true. So is that a thing where you get bored, maybe? You think?
I wouldn't say yes. I wouldn't say no. I certainly believe, though, it's a possibility when they go on. Think about it. If they go on a road against an NFC team in the middle of October and they're 10-1 and their division's not great this year. Obviously, they had 3 teams go to the playoffs, but they're still the best team in that division. I wouldn't be surprised if you talk to those guys and they're like, yeah, you know what? We'll play the first 3 quarters, and the fourth quarter, we'll just turn it on.
Luke Kuechly here on the Rich Eisen Show, 7-time Pro Bowler, 5-time first team All-Pro, a defensive rookie of the year, and a defensive player of the year here on the Rich Eisen Show. If this was like the Heisman Trophy and defensive players of the year got a chance to vote for defensive players of the year currently, who would you give your vote to, Luke?
Oh, you know who I doesn't think gets enough credit is Trey Hendrickson. And granted, they were on a bad defense with Cincinnati. It's one of the big reasons they missed the playoffs. So I can't give it to him. I think T.J. Watt. I think Myles Garrett. I think Zach Bond and the job that he's done on that Philadelphia Eagles defense has been really good. So I'm sure I'm missing some guys.
Well, Surtain is another one that's out there on the back end, which is obviously a rarity for a back end guy. Normally, it's in the same way that the MVP is a quarterback award. Frequently, the defensive player of the year is a sacks award, right? Like it's a pass rusher award. You are obviously an exception to that rule. Sometimes you can have a middle linebacker who's doing it, but Surtain is on that list too. Luke,
he should be. Yeah, that defense and Vance Joseph out there in Denver has been phenomenal all year. But I'm gonna throw a little love at an off the ball backer, Zach Bond, first year in Philadelphia, and that Fangio defense. He's had a really good season, and he's been a big part of their success, I think, in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, he's what a story for him, right? I mean, a special teamer in many ways, coming from New Orleans, and Vic Fangio is like, that's clay. I'm going to mold that guy into a defensive player of the year, and he has 100% resulted in success. You know?
Oh, absolutely. He was a second round pick out of Wisconsin. They brought him into New Orleans, and he wasn't. I don't think he was what they thought he was going to be, and everyone was kind of like, "What's going on?" And then switches over to Philadelphia, and Vic Fangio is playing him on the ball, off the ball, 5-man front, traditional 4-man spacing, off the ball, and it just shows you that sometimes it's not the guy, and it's just more guys thrive in a different system, and nothing wrong on either end. He's just a better fit with that Fangio defense.
Let's talk about a team we're not talking about, okay? Because in many ways, I understand Cam Newton was the MVP of your team that went to Super Bowl 50. So it's not like you didn't have any stars out there. You did. But I don't think a lot of people going into the season were pegging Carolina to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC that year, with all due respect. But you did. So which team are we not talking about that can make it, that you think has got a real shot to make the Super Bowl, Luke Kuechly?
I think in the NFC, you start to think about teams that, when they're hot, who do you not want to play? And I think the Rams are one of those teams where, in weeks, 15 through 17, where they didn't play a lot of their guys, they were really, really good on the defensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. And then you flip to the offensive side, they struggled those weeks 15 to 17, but they're healthy. They have both the receivers. They got Stafford. If you watch that Bills Rams game, they can score 1 million points. Their first game will be at home since they won the NFC West. I think Sean McVay is a really, really good offensive coordinator, offensive mind. And if that defense plays as well as it did, weeks 15 through 17, and that offense starts to get going again like we know it can, I think they're a team that in the NFC that you wouldn't want to play. And then I think everybody on the AFC side is breathing a sigh of relief that Joe Burrow and the Bengals sneak their way in.
You think, right? You think?
Oh he is. I'll tell you what, that guy, watching him throw the ball in pregame warmups. It's Jake Delhomme, who I do the radio with, made a really good point. He makes a lot of good points, but he said that Joe Burrow is a passer of the football. He's not a thrower. There's a lot of guys out there that throw the football. I mean, Joe can certainly throw it, but he's a passer. Everything is precision. Everything is well thought out. He goes through his progressions. He's really hard to play against because the ball goes where it's supposed to. It's on target. If it's not there, he goes 1-2, check down. And it's impressive to watch him. And I bet you a lot of those teams, especially the Bills, it would have been Cincinnati versus Buffalo, and I think up there in Buffalo, they're probably pretty happy that Joe Burrow and that Jamar Chase, T. Higgins offense isn't coming up to Orchard Park.
This is probably an unfair question, but I'll ask you anyway. When Jake Delhomme makes good points, how do you understand him? I don't understand.
Oh
Like,
my gosh, I
right?
know what you're. He's got that
How do you?
Louisiana accent.
Well,
I'll
yeah,
tell you what.
yeah. He makes Xavier Leggett sound like he's British. You know,
Oh my gosh,
right?
Jake. I'll tell you what.
What? What are you
Everyone,
laughing over there? Oh, this is
everyone's.
true. Okay.
It's when
I'm
he
trying to
gets
picture
when he
Leggett with
starts
a
getting
British accent.
excited too.
Well,
Yeah, he is so good at it. He loves it. He loves the Panthers.
yeah.
And he's a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun to be around. And we've got a good booth there with the three of us in there with Anish
Yeah.
Shroff, who does a great job as well. So we've got a fun group, and Jake certainly makes it a lot of fun for all of us.
I bet. So you're a Pro Football Hall of Fame finalist, Luke. How does that hit you when you hear that?
It's cool. It's been fun kind of going along the process and seeing, how it gets whittled down, who's on that final list. And, you know, you go to NFL honors a couple of times, the week of the Super Bowl, and, the last thing they do that night is bring the guys out. The 2022 Hall of Fame class. Last year is a 2023 Hall of Fame class, or 20, whatever it was.
Yes.
And I got to see Julius Peppers walk out, and you don't know until they call the name. And it's just cool to see those guys up there. And, obviously you're down to the final 15. You just think maybe your name gets called. But when you think about it, I was in grade school. I went up to Canton with one of my grade school buddies, and we went through the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and you start looking at, all the names of guys that, Jerry Rice, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, and you start walking through there, and then you see all these guys, and then you grow up watching football. And for me, Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher and Derek Brooks and those guys all get in. I got to play against Urlacher, which was like a dream come true. I got to say hi to him on the field after the game. And these guys that you spend so much time watching and trying to be like, and you watch Urlacher pick balls off down the middle of the field, and you think, maybe one day I can play in the NFL like Urlacher. And to kind of have it come full circle and have the opportunity is it's super cool. I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't a really neat honor just to be mentioned on the list.
When you see a photograph like this, what do you think? You coming out of the mist, 59.
Like, man, I wish I could trade places with that guy.
Why?
Because that is so fun. Playing football is so fun. Playing in Carolina at Bank of America with the guys that we had on our roster with Coach Rivera, it's the best job in the world. You show up, it's all your boys. You go to meetings, you wear sweats, you have meetings, you mess around, you go out to practice, you have practice, you come inside, you're with your guys all the time. You go travel to a game, you have dinner, you have snacks on the airplane home. I'd get an ice cream bar and go sit up with Greg and Derek Anderson and JJ and watch the game. And then it's so fun, and get to compete and do something that I've wanted to do since I was a little kid is a special thing. So I would trade spots with that guy running out of the tunnel tomorrow if I could.
Well, just to, again, let you know, because it's your first time being a finalist, Luke, that, folks who are in the audience don't know who's being announced for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but the Hall of Famers find out about a week to 10 days beforehand when the voting takes place, and somebody rings your doorbell. And I would have my head on a swivel if I were you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I know that, and I know it's nerve-wracking. I've spoken to so many folks who are in your position who are deserving of it and get that, and then they, doorbell doesn't ring now. It might ring next year. It might ring the year after that. And it's exciting, exhilarating, frustrating, nerve-wracking, all of it. But it is just as great a moment as possible. And the fact that you are in this mix right now is so well-deserved. It really is, dude.
I appreciate it. I'll probably have some neighborhood kid at the end of January is going to come ring my doorbell. I'm going to get all excited.
Well, at least it's not like it used to be, Luke, where you'd be sitting in a hotel room with your family members. And one year, like, I don't want to say who, told me they're sitting in their hotel room with their family members, and housekeeping knocked on the door.
Oh, my God.
And it's like, no, I don't want turned down service. I want a Hall of Fame service. You know what I mean? Like, so at least you're in your own home and you don't know if it's going to happen or not. You know what I mean?
Well,
you go about your life.
Yeah, it's funny. You get the call for the draft and you never know if somebody's calling you, and making a prank call, and then some of these guys get to the end of their career and they get the knock on the door and they wonder if it's the Amazon guy or if it's the Hall of Fame coming. So,
Luke, I hope it is the latter for you now, and if not, it'll happen. And I appreciate. I'd love to keep doing this and pick your thoughts on what's going on in the NFL. I appreciate it.
absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. That's Luke Kuechly, Pro Football Hall of Fame finalist, one of the best to ever lace him up, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.